Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we have Marco Nunez, the former head athletic trainer of the Los Angeles Lakers. Thank you for joining us, Marco.
Thank you for having me.
Could you please go ahead and share some, experience with us?
Right out of college, when I was becoming an athletic trainer or getting my degree, I kind of knew that one of the paths I wanted to take was to work in the professional setting. So one of my first jobs was as an assistant athletic trainer with the LA Avengers and arena football team. And after that, I pretty much kind of stayed within the professional setting. I've pretty much done that my whole entire career, the 19, 20 years. It's been a great run. I enjoyed everything I've done. And one of the things that I enjoyed working with is the athletes themselves. Obviously, that's who we're for, but their dedication to the sport and their dedication to getting better and kind of getting out on the field is one of the things that I thrive on, and I enjoy doing so much with them because I know that they want to be out there as much as I want them to be out there. They're going to work as hard as I want them to work as hard. They're dedicated. They listen to what I tell them. As long as they feel comfortable that I'm helping them and it's going to help them get there sooner and safer, by all means, they're right on board with it. And that's one of the great things to do.
One thing we would definitely love to know more about is when you work with the Lakers, then how would NBA trainers help the players to keep in a good physical condition?
Correct. So, over the years, the dynamics as far as athletic training or sports medicine in basketball or professional sports has slowly evolved. Traditionally, athletic trainers have always been thought about the individuals that do the taping and the stretching, kind of in the training room. But now it's completely evolved to whole sports medicine aspect. So it's no longer just treating the player as far as in the training room, but more preparing the player, preventive medicine, and then more importantly, also recovery. Recovery has become a big proponent over the last 10 years. So our job as athletic trainers in sports medicine is to prevent as many injuries as we can, try to identify and do assessments, do functional screenings, but also improve the recovery process, whether it's through Normatex, whether it's through recovery flight, anything that's sort of hydration. Hydration alone, over the last years, we've done a lot of sports science. When I was with the organization,
Hmm.
we had a whole hydration program for all the players, keeping track of the load management of the individuals. Obviously, the game has become faster and stronger, and our goal is try to keep these guys healthy, but also try to monitor how much we put stress on their bodies. And in a sport, it's not just playing the season, playing the game, but you're trying to make sure that the athletes peak at the highest level, and when they need to, specifically when you get into the playoffs, that's when you want your athletes at the top of their game because that's when you're going to compete the most. That's where you're going to run, and that's how you get the rings.
Were there any interesting stories when you were working with Kobe?
I'll give you one prime example about Kobe, and I kind of reiterate this a lot, and this is kind of exactly what, when you think of Kobe, this is who Kobe is. So most players, whenever they get hurt, obviously the first thing that runs through their mind, okay, this is going to change my game. What am I going to do? Can I play the rest of the season? Affect my playing time? There's a lot of negativity that runs through your mind because that's the first reaction. That's normal. That's for everybody. Whenever you get hurt, it's like, okay, how's this going to affect me? Whether it's work, lifestyle, whatever it is. Kobe had a little bit different set of mind. I mean, he would go through that emotion, but it's almost like, okay, fine, I did it. I'm done. I'm ready to roll. Let's move on. It is what it is. How can I learn from this? What do I need to do to be able to get past this? So I'll give you a prime example. One of the seasons, and this is one of the seasons we actually won the championship, is that he had what's called an avulsion fracture. So he fractured
Yeah.
the tendon on the shooting hand here. Do you remember that when he had we had a splinter? Can take some time. It affects your shot. It affects how much you grip the ball and all that stuff. And it does change it. We tape it up. He goes on the court, takes some shots up in the court. He misses 1, 2, 3, 4. Tries a little different angle, shoots a little different one. Tries about 10, 12 times. He finally makes one, makes the second one,
Hmm.
makes the third one, makes 4, 5, 6 in a row. And you can see that in his mind because I'm watching this, I like him doing this. And at one point, he's like, he shoots the one last one, stops, puts the ball down. He's like, all right, I figured it out. Now I know what I need to do to continue on. I have this injury, so what? It is what it is. I'm going to continue. I'm a professional athlete. I need to do what I need to do. Even with that, we won the championship that one year. So that's just kind of Kobe's mindset that, yes, there will be obstacles in your career. There will be obstacles in your life as an athlete. You just got to figure out how to overcome them and get past it because the ultimate goal is to get that ring.
Have you ever worked in other countries? So we definitely would love to know, is there any like major difference in athletic training regimes for professional basketball players among Europe or North America or in Asia?
You're talking about just athletic training specifically
Correct.
around the world?
Yes.
I've never worked anything as far as Europe. I did get to meet the sports medicine staff over from Manchester City, the premier soccer team. I had a day to be able to kind of chat with them. It was kind of interesting, a lot of some of the sports science that they do and some of the stuff that we will do also with the Lakers and some of the stuff that we do in the United States. Like I said, majority of the sports medicine has evolved into sports science, into managing the players, doing load managing, prevention, and kind of keeping the players healthy and be able to monitor them as far as so they can last throughout the whole season. It's not just kind of you want to run them and burn them. Um, I know I've spent this past summer and in the last 2-3 years I've spent in China and Taiwan a lot with Sportsline Asia, and just recently I was in China in Foshan with the Luan Lions and also the Macau Black Bears, kind of helping them out. Um, One of the key elements, I think one of the things that I notice a lot, and sometimes one of the key things is not always about quantity, but about quality. It's never about, hey, we're going to practice for 3 hours and let's see what we get done. It's more about quantity. And I think that's one of the big differences now that in the United States, it's no longer about, hey, we're going to practice for 3-4 hours. We're going to practice for 30 minutes, but we're going to get what we need from you guys and keep your legs fresh and save them for when you play the game. Where one thing I noticed when I was talking to some of the athletes when I was in China, it's like, hey, we practice 3 times a day for 2-3 hours. I was like, what? Which was a little overwhelming for me to try to kind of understand that. But there's always that mentality. Hey, more is better, but it always and not necessarily is. I'll give you a prime example. Phil Jackson. When Phil Jackson came into the Lakers, there was a big clock on the court up top, and that was one of the first things he did. He took off the clock. He said, "Time is irrelevant. Doesn't matter how long we're going to be here. We're going to get our job done." So what he would do, he would get all the athletes together, and he would tell them, "Hey, this is what I need accomplished. We're going to do this, 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 and this. Now, we could do it in 20 minutes if everybody gets their stuff correct and we knock it out, or we could be here for 3-4 hours. It's up to you guys." And when the athletes realize that, hey, you know what, this is for real. Let's get in. Let's be serious. This is business. Let's get our jobs done. They would do it. Boom, knock it out. Do everything correctly, and we're out of here. So it didn't matter. He never had a whole thing, hey, we're going to be here for 2 hours. We're going to be here for 3 hours. That wasn't the point. It was all about quality, not quantity.
Okay. As you watched the Senior Elite League 2019 Taipei stuff back, you were in Taipei this September. How do you feel, about the difference between 3-on-3 basketball versus the 5-on-5 basketball?
I enjoyed the 3-on-3 basketball. When this is the 5-on-5, obviously you still work with the team, but in the 3-on-3, there's a lot of more passing. There's a lot of more skill set in it. As far as the 5-on-5, it's a little bit different, especially depending on who the players are, whether you're doing half court or full court. Nowadays in the NBA, back in the days in the 80s, it was one of the things where it was more of a half court type of system where the point guard would bring the ball on, he'll slowly bring it over to the half court. Everybody would get into the positions. Okay, now let's run a play. Nowadays, it's like, hey, as soon as the ball is brought into bound, Westbrook, he takes it, runs the court. I mean, he usually beats everybody else over there. So by the time he gets over there, half of the team's barely there. They lay it up. So it's kind of like a fast-paced game nowadays as far as in the NBA. I enjoy the 3-on-3 because it kind of brings a little bit back of that old school mentality, but it has some of the fundamentals where a lot of people kind of get away from the fundamentals as far as, pick and rolls, screenings, passing, because you have to have that with just 3 individuals versus, hey, let's just get the ball and let's roll. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people tend to forget as far as nowadays, learning the fundamentals. Now it's almost like even the AAU box, hey, let's get the ball and let's just roll. But hey, you know what? Let's try to see if we can run a play, let's run a system type of thing.
What do you think of our events back in Taipei?
Oh, I think it was awesome. I love how well you guys were organized. I love how the competition among the athletes. I love how they had that burning to try to win the game, to compete. It wasn't like, hey, we're just here through the motion type of thing. They were out there to win it. They wanted to compete. You saw some aggressiveness out there, which is always great to see. But as long as you see the aggressiveness on the court and they play and they keep it on the court type of thing, that's awesome. One of the cities that I would always love to go play when I was with the Lakers is Boston. Boston Celtics is, they're kind of considered our biggest enemy, so to speak. The Boston Lakers thing.
Yeah.
But I used to love enjoying playing over there in Boston because the Boston fans were true basketball fans. They wanted the competition. They wanted the Lakers come in and play them because they knew that, hey, when the Lakers came in town, they were going to bring the best. The Celtics were going to bring the best, and it was going to be an incredible game. And that's kind of what I saw with the 3-on-3 down in Cena when I was Taipei. You saw the athletes, as soon as they stepped on the court, They were ready to compete. They had that fire. They were hungry to win the 3-on-3 tournament, and which is great to see because that's what you want to see. You want to see true competition versus just people kind of just going through the motions.
So for that, like, high pace, like, sports with like such a less interval or resting process, like, what there's any recommendation you would give to the basketball players to get, recover like quickly, from one game to the other?
Hydration is one of the key elements, and one thing that I tell athletes is that you don't want to wait until you start playing the game to start hydrating. You want to start hydrating 2 to 4 hours before because you want it in your system. And then as soon as you're done, naturally you're kind of thirsty, so you start hydrating. So one of the things that we did, like with the Lakers, we implemented a customized hydration program. So hydration for our athletes started as early as 10 a.m., even though the game was at 7:30 p.m., because we wanted to get the hydration into the body. Water loss, hydration loss is one of the key elements. Rest, sleep. I know, as young athletes, as young kids, you don't sleep that much. You get up early at 7 a.m., you stay 11 or 12, but sleep is one of the best ways to rest. Every time I speak to young athletes, I tell them, hey, don't worry about the clubs, don't worry about going partying. The one, there's a lot of devices out there. There's Normatec, there's Fireflies, there's crowd chambers, there's all these things out there that people pay for recover. But the one thing that you can do that's free is sleep. And that's probably the best thing that you can do for your body because that is when your body recovers. Just rest, make sure you get your sleep, and make sure you're hydrated. Water nowadays, you can go for the water content. That can be free. You don't have to buy it. So the two things are probably the most critical ones are the free ones, but yet people are paying for all this extra stuff.
All right. I hear your suggestions. During that interval process, like, if I just finish one game, like 30 minutes after, I'm gonna prepare another high intensity like games. Is there any like certain exercise tips that you can give us?
Correct. So one of the best things to do, a lot of people when they go work out and the next day they're sore. One of the things they try to do is because they feel sore, they don't want to do anything. That's actually the worst thing you want to do. You do not want to not just do anything. You want to do what's called an active recovery, where you go out there and the goal is to try to get your blood pressure rate at about maybe 50, 60% your heart rate max. So you're looking anywhere between, I think when I looked at it, anywhere between like 110 to 120 beats per minute. And what it is you're trying to get the blood flowing. You're trying to get the lactic acid. You're trying to get oxygenated blood to the body. So even within those 30 minutes that you're resting, the last thing you want to do is just kind of plop down and do nothing. Whether you do an active stretch, an active recovery stretch, kind of cool down is one of probably the most important things. A lot of people don't tend to cool down. As soon as they're done, they just blop on the floor. It's like, I'm done. But cooling down is as important as warming up. And people tend to forget the cool down because the cool down, it is rare that you see people actually cool down. Even when you go in the gym, you go on the treadmill, you probably start up slow because you want to warm up and you probably stretch before and then you go full speed. And as soon as you're done, you hit that stop button, you walk off and I'm out of here. But no, you want to stay there. You want to do that cool down. The cool down is probably one of the most things, especially when you only have those 30, 40 minutes. You want to make sure you get that lactic acid out of your body. You want to make sure you get that oxygenated blood into your muscles so they can start recovering as soon as possible. Because if you don't, it just pulls in there and that soreness increases and fatigue's going to be quicker in that sense.
All right. Appreciate a lot. Like, thank you so much for your insights and really enjoy talking to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Roger.